So this is your first hunt.
Hello everybody, welcome to Charles Haugen Reviews. Today we are going to be talking about Predator Badlands. This was a film I was pretty anticipatory about. I, believe it or not, was not the biggest fan of the animated film that came out a few months ago from the same director. I believe that was called The Killer of Killers. There were a lot of things about that specific film that I wasn't a big fan on, though I was a really big fan of Prey. So going into this, my expectations were tapered quite significantly. Seeing the trailers, I also was kind of not really knowing what to expect. But I am happy to say that this movie is a true crowd pleaser. It is a very exciting film. There are some things that I wasn't too fond of, but overall, I thought it was a pretty fun experience, and light years better than The Predator from 2018 for sure, and probably a step up from Predators, but enough of that. Let's get into it and break it down and see what worked and what didn't. So just to start off, we have a very different story here in regards to the synopsis. I'm going to be very general of kind of my description of what happens, because I think that we all kind of have an idea of what the plot looks like, but I don't want to give too much away. This is a very deep dive into the culture of the predator species, the Yautja, or I probably butchered that pronunciation, but we learn more about their society and their cultural norms, their behaviors, things like that. And we follow a predator named Deck, who is basically like the runt of a litter, and he wants to prove that he is worthy of being in the clan despite being smaller than all of them and not as strong and not as fierce. And in this clan, they see any type of weakness as punishable by death. So he decides that what he can do to prove his worth is to take out an entity that no other Yautja has ever been able to defeat. And that's kind of where our story starts. And he, along the way, meets a synthetic, played by Ellie Fanning, masterfully, might I add. And she basically becomes almost like a guide for him on this planet. And on this planet, everything wants to kill him. So it's pretty fun. And once the momentum starts, it does not stop. There is quite a frenetic pace to this film. Moving on to cinematography, I have to be honest, this is probably the best looking Predator film out of any of them. This was by far the film that had at least to me personally, my favorite action set pieces I've ever seen in a Predator film. The scale was enormous in some of these scenes. It was epic. It was just, a thrill ride. And watching it, you really felt submersed into this world. And they did such a good job, because I know that probably 99% of it was CGI green screen, and it looked good. I was a little concerned with the trailers because they didn't look great, but I don't know what they did in post-production, but it looks really good. And the wide-angle shots that they have in these action set pieces is so cool. Lots of visceral action, very fast-paced. This is, despite the fact that there's no human gore in this movie, which at this point I hope that's not a spoiler, the fact that there's not any red blood in this movie, it is still incredibly violent and very exciting to watch. And being able to see a predator kind of from his perspective and him going upon this hunt and seeing what he has to do to claim his victory, it was, cinematography wise, it looked great. I don't have many complaints on that front. For the VFX, I believe that they were pretty good overall, a lot better than what the trailer had kind of given us an idea of what to expect. I guess that they must have really polished it up and toned it up before the wide release, but I think that the film had pretty substantially good VFX CGI. No practical. That is one complaint that I have, is while Deck's body is definitely practical, I feel like he would have been a lot cooler if, the mouth part and all of that was practical as well. But his face, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe his face was entirely CGI for the entirety of the film. There were a few parts where the CGI was a little, brought me a bit into the uncanny valley, made me kind of like, I can tell that wasn't real. It took me out of it a little bit, but that was only like one or two split-second occasions throughout the film, and overall, I was thoroughly engaged. I thought it was a pretty well-looking film as far as the special effects. I just really wish that we had seen more practical effects, and I wish that the Predator had been entirely practical. I think that would have really cemented this movie for me personally. Okay, now sound. Believe it or not, as iconic as the first Predator film is, this is definitely my favorite score of any Predator film. The sound is tribal. It honestly reminded me a lot of the work that Hans Zimmer did on Dune. It sounded like Dune at times. I was very pleasantly surprised by the score in this film, and I think it might actually be my favorite part of the entire thing. And as far as just sound design, sound editing, that kind of thing, it didn't really stand out to me. I didn't feel like there was a big focus on the actual sound, not the music, but the sound of the film. It was loud for sure. There were a lot of moments where monsters would growl and my seat was vibrating, which was cool. But I don't feel like there was as much of an emphasis on the sound as there was just on the action itself. Performances. There aren't a lot of performances that you can really break down in this film and dig deep into, because there's not a lot of characters. Deck is all motion capture, and I'm pretty sure that his body, though, that most of his body was practical, like his arms and legs, but obviously the face was motion cap. But coming from somebody that is a huge fan of Andy Serkis, it's really hard for me to see a mocap performance and be blown away by it. I'm not saying that he was bad. Like, he was fantastic at emoting and using body language to convey what he was feeling. It just wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. It was really good, and it never distracted me, but I wasn't like blown away by his performance. Ellie Fanning, by the way, she has a very interesting performance here. I don't want to go too deep into it. She's funny, she's witty, and I'll just put it this way, she has a spectrum of personalities. I think that she was definitely the highlight of the film for me personally, and if there was any character in the film that I would like to see brought into another franchise movie, possible AVP movie, R-rated, hopefully in the tone of Romulus, I think she would be pretty fun in there. Especially if we got Andy back, I think that they would be fun together. I love the synthetics, by the way. Bishop, Ash, all of them. They're like David. Can't forget David. They're the best characters from the Alien universe to me personally. I love them, and I really want to see. I believe her name was Thea. I want to see Thea again. She was great. But other than that, those are the only really two performances in the film that stand out or that are even really there, kind of. Anyways, I am interested to hear your comments on that, because especially for Ellie Fanning, because once you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool. All right, guys, my biggest complaint about this film is the writing. And I think that the writing is passable, it's serviceable. This is where we run into the true core issues of the film for me personally as a viewer and as a fan of this franchise. I am concerned, okay? I said in my short that this was almost like a Marvelization of the Predator character. Now, I say that, right? And that might ring bells. It might make people antsy and like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Are they going to ruin the franchise? I hope that they're not going to do that, but what you need to understand and how you need to approach this film is imagine that you are going to see a live action adaptation of the Dark Horse comics. That is literally the best way that I can describe this film. It is not big on story. It is very action driven. It's surprisingly got humor to the point where it was kind of like, oh, I hate to say this. Again, the Marvelization of the Predator character. It felt like they were really trying to hone in on the success of The Mandalorian, and they were trying to hone in on the success of the MCU. And I don't think it made me quite uncomfortable, but it made me very apprehensive. It made me very concerned because it was like, okay, this is funny. People in the theater are chuckling. They were applauding at the end of it at the early screening. And obviously it's a crowd pleaser. General audiences are going to dig it, love it. But this is it. Like, I don't want to see any more humor than this. And even if they did the same exact amount of humor in another Predator film, I would probably be pissed. Like, this, okay, it was a one and done thing. We had the movie that had a lot of witty banter and a lot of funny moments. Move past it. Let's get back into the character and back into the tone, right, that this character really deserves. I don't think that the humor was necessarily as bad as MCU humor, where it's just every 5 damn seconds you have some stupid remark. It's nothing like that, but it was definitely pretty consistent. And the thing is, though, right, and this is why I'm so conflicted on this topic. Yes, the humor is abundant, but honestly, some of the humor ties into what I could easily see becoming like people's favorite lines or favorite quotes from the entire franchise. Some of the lines like reminded me of something that the Commandos would have said in the first Predator film to each other. Like, the humor is, it's smart, right? So it's not really the writing of the humor that's the problem, but it's the overabundance of it, where it gets to a point that you're kind of like, stop, just stop. That's enough. And other than the humor, which I'm just hoping that the next entry into this series is not going to rely so heavily on that. But moving forward, the film is also very predictable. And there are moments where characters do things that are just moronic, but it creates a cool looking shot and then allows the Deus Ex Machina to happen where somebody swoops in and saves. And it's just like, when you take a moment and take a step back and you think that, why did they do that? Why did they just stand there? Like, that was stupid. They knew what was happening. That kind of thing. That kind of thing is a huge pet peeve of mine. It really kind of drives me crazy. I understand that it's for dramatic effect and all that other stuff, and most audiences probably aren't really going to care. But for me personally, it sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I'm really huge on narrative structures with my history in writing and publishing. So I'm very serious about pacing. I'm serious about tone and that kind of thing. And I'm also very serious about laziness. And I do think that there was quite a bit of laziness in some of the writing here. Now, all of that being said, when this movie hits with the writing, it hits hard. There are some fantastic quotes, fantastic lines, some amazing segments in here that make you chuckle, make you laugh, make you want to cheer. And it's like, for every amazing line or amazing quote or amazing exchange, you have a few of these jokes that just honestly didn't need to be in there. So I would say the writing is the weakest point. But with that being said, this is a comic book on the big screen. And that's as simple as I can say it. And yeah, I just hope that they kind of shift away from that. I hope that this was a one-off thing and that they don't try to Marvelize this. And I know I'm going on for a bit here about the writing, but it really is my strongest critique of the film. For any of you old heads out there that were big fans of the original film, here is my best example I can give you in my own mind how I can compare it. I don't think that a lot of people are going to agree with this, but this is how I personally feel. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I have been my whole life, and I grew up on the Showa Heisei films, and Millennium I didn't really care for. Reiwa, the Japanese ones have been great, but everything else, not the biggest fan of, aka Monsterverse. Now, a lot of like older Godzilla fans hate the MonsterVerse, at least in the big or in the niche collector communities, you know. And these guys really can't stand it because they feel like it's taking something that they loved and it's turning it into popcorn entertainment, which what were the Showa films, right? I don't hate MonsterVerse. I really don't. I actually am very thankful that it exists. And the reason for that is because it brought in a whole new generation of fans, and Godzilla is more popular than ever. Now, I'm saying all this and I'm bringing all this up because I think that Predator Badlands is going to be that MonsterVerse for Predator fans. I think that this movie is going to bring in a whole slew of a new generation of viewers. And I think that that's a great thing. Now, the real question is Disney, is Fox, are they going to cater to the new fans exclusively, the old fans, or both? And that's where my biggest concern is. All right, guys, and now for my overall rating for this film. 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Could go a little bit less, could go a little bit higher upon a rewatch, but I'm pretty confident in this range. It was a fun time. If you can turn your brain off, even better. I read a lot of the comic books growing up, so seeing some of this lore and some of these things on there, and some of the little Easter eggs, which I won't go into, but some of the Easter eggs they have in here are also kind of like, oh, that's cool. The movie definitely suffers from poor writing and I guess a potential confusion of tone. I'm hoping that it's a one-off, and if it is, I will probably bump this rating up if the next Predator film is not like this. But I think as a singular entry, kind of a side quest thing, it definitely was a great time, and it was very fun. But I don't think that it's something that I'm going to like get the itching to rewatch over and over and over again like the original film. And yeah, but I do think that a lot of new fans that come into the franchise are absolutely going to love this, and that's a great thing. It means more Predator movies. I'm all here for that. So yeah, 6.5 to 7 out of 10 is what I'm going to land at. What was your ranking? What did you think of the film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you think of the writing? Did you think the humor was too much? Characters. I'm interested to hear everything, and especially Ellie Fanning. I'm very interested here just because synthetics are always the best characters, let's be real. But anyways, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to hear your discussions.